The WNBA and the fever. You give me fever. Return to action. And they won 2 games over the weekend, including a big win over the Phoenix Mercury, Diana Taurasi, and that guy, Brittany Griner, 98-89. Then they went out and beat the Storm, former team of that gal who's going to end up being a wife with kids. Mark my words, Sue Bird. She doesn't play for him anymore, 92-75. And both games drew massive audiences. See, why am I talking about this? Because the coach of the Olympic team, Cheryl Reeve, was big on that hashtag, not about one woman. Well, of course it's about one woman. WNBA is only about one woman. And then a bunch of parasites latching on to that one woman. Hello, Angel Reese. Hello, Kennedy, whatever the hell your name, Kennedy Carter. Listen to this. Massive numbers of fans watched Caitlin Clark. Let's listen. Let's pay attention. Friday's game. Let's start there, shall we? Friday's game, which aired on ION. Now, I got to ask. I had no idea what ION was. I thought I knew a lot about TV channels. You know, we all had to find the different channels, True TV and others, when the NCAA tournament went to CBS, TNT, and all of its different partners. Okay, then we all learned about Impractical Jokers because when you go to True TV, the only thing on that network was an entire day of Impractical Jokers. Okay, we learned that. But ION, man, ION even know where ION was. See what I did there? Not that clever. I'm not that clever, but once in a while, I knock it out of the park. Listen to this. The network on ION averaged 1.2 million viewers, according to Sports Media Watch. Now, I would guess that in the entire week of ION, they didn't have 1.2 million viewers on that network, not all week combined. Just a guess, probably not true. It was the second highest WNBA viewership on ION, trailing only, you guessed it, a previous matchup featuring who? Let me go to the chin. Caitlin Clark from earlier this year. Now, Sunday, the Fever took on the Storm. By the way, Sue Bird will become a mother and a wife of an adult male with the great American penis. Mark my words. Anyway, she faced the Storm. And when I say she, I'm talking about Caitlin Clark. Prime spot, 3:30 Eastern Time, ABC, and it's worth it. It is worth it to have Caitlin Clark on there. Let's look at it. The game averaged 2.2 million viewers, the fourth largest viewership number for a WNBA game in the last 20 years. Now, here's the thing with the WNBA. This is going to be an interesting day. September 8th, mark your calendars, or don't. But here in Indy, we have the calendar mark. Why, you ask? Well, at 1 o'clock, the Colts open up their season in a division game against the very highly publicized C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. So they do that at 1, and right across the street, literally, in Indianapolis, here is Lucas Oil, here is Pan Am Plaza, here are some bars, 2 streets over, there is Gainbridge. Not only can you walk there, a fat ass with a fake hip, bad knee, bad back, and 30 pounds overweight like myself can run there, can actually sprint there as much as I can sprint. That's how close it is. So it's going to be a little fascinating, right? You got the Colts at 1 opening the NFL season, which is a celebration here in Indy like every other city. There's a 5K, there's Touchdown Town right next to it. There's bands are going to be playing. It's going to be insanity. It's going to be fun. And then you hop, skip, and a jump at 4 o'clock, and I'm guessing it'll be a late arriving crowd because NFL games, they go to about 4:10, 4:15, then everybody's got to get over. You're going to watch Caitlin Clark. What a great day. I wonder, and many wonder, will the WNBA get swallowed up by the NFL? Now, make no mistake, the NFL, if you look at the top 10 watched shows in America, they're basically all NFL. Maybe some special sneaks in there, but they're the NFL. If you go to 20, it's usually the NFL and maybe an NFL pregame or postgame show. If you go to the top 50, Most are NFL. Bottom line is the NFL sucks the oxygen out of every room that it's in sports. You know, we pay attention to college basketball. We used to pay attention to college basketball a lot. Now, basically, we pay attention to March Madness. Why? A couple reasons. One, you can't tell the teams anymore. Two, gambling on March Madness has taken off. But also, March is clear of the Super Bowl. March is clear of the college football playoffs. March is clear of football. So now we pay attention. It is going to be fascinating because the WNBA had to move their calendar back. Remember, they just came back from essentially a month break. Why? The Olympics. Players went over, won a gold medal. Now you got the Olympics. So now you're moving it into the NFL. I'm fascinated, but good for Ion. I don't know, and I didn't research. I guess I should have. Didn't feel like it. Wasn't that interested until this moment. Truly, until this moment, am I interested in how did Ion get the WNBA contract? Now, somebody may look at me and go, dummy, Ion is part of whatever. Maybe they are. I don't know. But I got to tell you, genius by Ion. Genius. It may be called Id. It may be called Ion. I don't know. I'm calling it Ion. That's the bottom line. But good for the Fever. And good for the WNBA. And good for everybody involved that the WNBA is growing. I'm going to tell you something. If anything was going to bring Indianapolis, downtown Indianapolis back. Now, remember, we had 2 days of rioting. Our mayor, like the governor of Minnesota, Walz, allowed criminals to burn down our city. They did not help small business get back. So when you go around downtown Indianapolis, it's fake. They painted boards, put it on sides of buildings to make it look like restaurants when the NCAA tournament came here during COVID. They're still up. They boarded it up the night that Trump was supposed to win. Then all of a sudden in the middle of the night, when Trump didn't win, they took the boards down. But the businesses haven't returned. In fact, many have closed since. How do you return business downtown? By bringing business downtown like Taylor Swift. A Taylor Swift concert brings basically what a football game times 3 brings to a city. The WNBA. Nobody really is coming downtown for an event in the summer other than a random concert or two. The big concert venue is out here in Fishers. It's a beautiful spot, or Noblesville. But now with the Fever and their 20-some dates, man, downtown has been hopping. Bars have been packed. T-shirts have been sold. Salads, well, not many salads because a lot of Iowa people came in. Beef has been eaten. God bless Caitlin Clark. 2,817 gallons of draft beer have been spilled, drank, poured at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, an increase of over 300% from other years. 750% more hot dogs have been eaten. That's right. People are getting fat with an F, and the city is getting fat with a PH, all because of Caitlin Clark. You go, Ion. Hey, Ion, if I can make a request, can you bring back MASH, the early MASH with McLean Stevenson? I don't need old MASH with David Ogden Stiers and Harry Morgan. I want new MASH. Appreciate it. Last week, ESPN made the interesting and I think surprising decision to sideline Sam Ponder and Robert Griffin III. I text Sam, haven't heard back from her. Griffin has been very public, saying that he's going to out what happened at ESPN. Now, the reason this was odd is because it was just before the start of the NFL season, and Sam Ponder is the host of NFL Countdown. You know, the show with Randy Moss, Rex Ryan, Teddy Bruschi, and a host of others. And she was very, very good at it. Problem Sam had is I think she got sideways with Seth Markham, I think is his name, and the powers to be at ESPN NNN. I think I told you. I wrote a letter, an email to Jimmy Patero, the head of ESPN. He usually responds to my emails. He didn't respond to this one. I put in it the article about Dan Orlovsky saying he deleted his Protect Our Daughters tweet. It did not represent the views of his employer. I said, Jimmy, Dan Dakich, as a father of a daughter, stepdaughter, and having a wife, ex-wife, and mother, I got to ask, do you people ever look at what you have turned into and get disgusted? As a father, it is our job to protect our daughters. My God, son, grow a damn pair and stand up for women. I didn't anticipate an email back. I've always gotten them before, even since I've left, whenever I've emailed him about something good, like, hey, congratulations or whatever. I'm that kind of guy. I don't get bitter at places that I leave or that leave me. I kind of like them. But anyway, it has been announced that Mike Greenberg will step into Sam Ponder's place. Greenberg, known as Greeny, is overplayed. I like Greenberg. Greenberg and I hosted Mike and Mike. Greenberg and I don't really know each other, but we had a familiarity when we would see one another on set, off set, in the makeup room, whatever. He was always nice enough to come on my show, and I was always nice enough to come on his show. When he felt he did something wrong to Colts fans, he called me, and he said, yo, can I come on today? I got to clear something up. It was about Andrew Luck being dissatisfied with the Colts organization, which I had known. We talked. He came on. It was great. But Greeny's overplayed. But the problem you have at ESPN is who you're going to put in there. Laura Rutledge is okay. She's fine. She's okay. She's nice. She seems like a decent person. She's a pageant queen, so she's an actress. And she is mad. She is hopping mad. In fact, her agent went to Awful Announcing, at least that's what I've been told, could be wrong, allegedly went to Awful Announcing. Awful Announcing today printed an article with the headline saying, when will Laura Rutledge get the job she's earned? She hadn't earned nothing. Let me explain something to you. They let Mike Tirico go. I've told you this before. I was at the Last Supper. Me, Tirico, Allison Williams, Bart Fox, Scott Johnson, our producer and our director. It was a Monday night in Iowa City. We raised a glass. Tirico announced to us that he was leaving. They weren't offering him a contract. He was gone. I drank Dewar's in the back of a town car with the great Brad Nessler. Nessler, after he and I just got done doing the slam dunk contest, whipped out a flask of Dewar's. Said, Double D, a toast. That's my last event at ESPN. They haven't offered me a contract. Point is, if ESPN is willing to let great broadcasters go, it tells you nobody's really earned nothing at ESPN, particularly some little blonde girl that nobody ever pays attention to. She's as nondescript as can be. See, Sam Ponder had a little edge to her. I work with Sam. I made Sam cry. Tell you the story quickly. Valentine's Day, Minneapolis, Sam and myself and Tirico are waiting for a shoot-around. We start talking. It was Valentine's Day. I said, yo, Sam, what Drew Stubbs, center fielder for the Reds, her boyfriend, get you for Valentine's Day? Oh, he didn't get me nothing. We're going to celebrate when I get back. I looked at Tirico. That was our opening. Because you could always mess with Sam. And she was a good sport. I go, wow, that's weird. I'm getting divorced. And you know what? I left my wife a little something, a little necklace, and a card, even though I'm getting divorced. Tirico took the bait and said, yeah, I left my wife because I knew I wasn't going to be here, a dozen roses, a card, and I got her a brand new tennis bracelet, you know, one of them rich things. Sam looked, really? Yeah, that's what men do. Men are supposed to make sure. And then we said, well, maybe he'll have something at the hotel. Maybe he'll leave something for you. Well, he didn't. Sam went right over to Drew Stubbs' house and broke up with him when they got back. True story. Tirico and I laughed. Sam punched us. It's all good. See, you can mess with Sam. Sam's real people. Laura Rutledge, pageant queen. If you don't know the difference, you don't know. She hasn't earned nothing. Ryan Clark hasn't earned nothing. You get what they give you based on who you know, how good your agent is, and you got to beat out Greeny or Stephen A. Smith for every job. That's the modern ESPN. But don't tell me Laura Rutledge deserves anything. The network had a few options to choose from: Laura Rutledge, Elle Duncan, Ryan Clark. Well, you can't put Elle Duncan in there because she's stupid. She's goofy. She's a moron. She doesn't know, but again, they do have Heather Dinich talking football, who is the same thing. Behind the scenes, Clark reportedly pushed for the gig. Oh, man, and Rutledge did too. Like Rutledge bitched, whined, and moaned, according to my sources, when she didn't get the Monday Night Football job that went to Van Pelt. Now, think about this. Think about ESPN putting Van Pelt, white dude, in the Monday Night Football gig, Greenberg, white dude, in the Sunday morning countdown gig. Think about that for a second. If that doesn't frost Ryan Clark, I don't know what does. If that's not going to piss off all of the diversity hires at ESPN, I don't know what does. Oh, it's going to get sexy. Women, blonde women, angry. I can't wait for the big floppy, Sarah Spain, to flop those bad boys down on somebody's desk and say, we got to talk. And nobody's there to listen. Behind the scenes, Clark reportedly pushed for the gig. Oh, yeah, he did. They didn't have much of a choice after Clark decided to publicly deride the company and all, but he came out and said he would blame racism if they didn't pay him more money. He did. Remember, he was videotaping himself, claiming if they don't pay me, it's racism. Now, he didn't say it that clearly, but those of us that decode racist talk, it was very, very clear. But they bypassed all the potential diversity hires and landed on the veteran Greenberg, who already hosts a daily radio show for the network. He also hosts NBA Countdown, the worst pregame, postgame, halftime show in America. Think about that just for a second. Think about the balls on ESPN. Is ESPN changing back? They got rid of a clown, an African-American clown, in Robert Griffin III. They got rid of him. What? They got rid of Blonde Girl. What? They didn't hire Blonde Girl. What? They didn't hire African-American race-baiting clown. What? What's going on there? You starting to realize ESPN just hire the best people? Because Greenberg is the best host. I mean, I don't know. When people see Greenberg, they trust him. They tune into him. When people see Laura Rutledge, they see another blonde girl with extensions. Simple. You want it real? Double D keeps it real. All right, Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is really stupid. The more Anthony Edwards talks, the more easier it is to see that he only had 1 year, 6 months of a college education. Anthony Edwards is now talking. Anthony Edwards, because he had one good game in one playoff series, is now an expert. Anthony Edwards says Michael Jordan was the only player with real skill back in the day. And in today's NBA, everybody has skill. Wow. I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. But guess what he's going to do? His dumbass is going to speak on it. Anthony Edwards is a dumbass. Like, very few things infuriate me, like arrogance with not achievement. Don't tell me he won a gold medal. Me, you, Dylan, Laura Rutledge, Sarah Spain could win a gold medal, assuming Sarah gets those floppies under check. Anyway, they said it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anyone had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one that had real skill. You know what I mean? So that's why when they saw Kobe, they were like, oh, my God. But now everyone has skill. Really? Everyone can shoot, but not one guy currently in the NBA could do the things with the basketball that Isaiah Thomas could. Not one guy currently in the NBA at his size could do the things in transition with the basketball that Magic Johnson could do. Not one guy currently in the NBA could combine shooting skill, passing skill, flair of Larry Bird. Not one guy currently in the NBA could shoot a sky hook like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar could do. None. Zero. Zip. Nada. Not one guy currently in the NBA could shoot the basketball like Dale Ellis could at his size. Not one. Not one. The level of stupid from 21-year-olds is exhausting. The level of not respecting the past by somebody as dumb and unaccomplished as Anthony Edwards is exhausting. Anthony Edwards was so bad in college that he got his coach fired. Didn't make the NCAA tournament. Were the people too skilled then, Anthony Edwards? Anthony Edwards had one nice playoff game, and the rest were pedestrian, particularly for a team that needed him as the, quote, star. He's going to be great, but right now he's just stupid. And I say that with absolute disrespect. I can't have less respect for a basketball player than I have right now for Anthony Edwards. I don't give a damn that he's got a little smile. I don't give a damn that he had a good playoff game. Where was he when LeBron James had to carry his ass and Steph Curry had to carry his ass to a gold medal after telling all of us that he was the number one option? Yeah, the pressure got a little too hot for little Anthony Edwards, just like it did in college, when he couldn't take a team, even though he was the best player in college basketball talent-wise, when he couldn't take a team and make him even 68th in the country. Think about that for a second. And now his mouth runneth over. Not one single human being in the NBA this day or any day could shoot a sky hook, much less a sky hook like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Not even close. Not even a little. Not even sort of. And it's sad, really, because what these idiots like Anthony Edwards should be doing is praising the past. But you got him and that dumbass J.J. Redick, who has dumbassed his way forward into the Lakers job, besmirching the past. I guarantee you, if Anthony Edwards had to line up against Isaiah Thomas in his prime, he would not be thinking the same thing. I also guarantee you, if he had to stand in there with Magic Johnson with the basketball, Byron Scott, who is massive, by the way, on one wing, James Worthy on the other wing, Anthony Edwards would get out of the way so fast, chicken shit out, that his head would spin. You can tell I'm getting pissed because I can't stand young folk that have achieved absolutely nothing other than wealth talking out of their ass. I just can't. I'm tired of it. Yeah, he's got a little smile. Yeah, he's perpetually stupid. I mean, honest to God, dudes with an 8th grade education talking about the history of the NBA should do one thing. Follow the advice of Huck Finn / Tom Sawyer. Better to be perceived as an idiot than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Anthony Edwards, you're a fucking dumbass. Anyway, let's move it along, people. Tom Brady, who can talk about all things because unlike Anthony Edwards, got a lot of championships, got a lot of accomplishment. Does. Tom Brady says NFL quarterbacks playing as rookies is a tragedy. We've dumbed the game down, and it discourages coaches from going to deeper levels. Let me stop right there. I'm curious to know what Tom Brady thinks the, quote, deeper levels are. He doesn't talk about it. It's a little like the DNC convention, Tom Brady. He talks like this, but tell me what the deeper levels are. I look forward to his broadcast where I'm assuming he's going to fill us in on those, quote, deeper levels. Here's what Brady had to say.
There used to be college programs. Now there are college teams. You're no longer learning a program, you're learning a playbook. And the program is ultimately, like at Michigan, for me, that was a pro-style program. 5 years I got to learn how to drop back pass, to read defenses, to read coverages, to be coached. I had to learn from being 7th quarterback on the depth chart to moving up to 3rd to ultimately being a starter. I had to learn all those things in college. That was development. Then I went to New England, and I was developed by Coach Belichick and the offensive staff there. I didn't start my first year. I think it's just a tragedy that we're forcing these rookies to play early. But the reality is the only reason why they are is because we dumbed the game down, which has allowed them to play. It used to be thought of at a higher level. We used to spend hours and hours in the offseason and training camp trying to be a little bit better than next year. But I think what happens is it discourages the coaches from going to deep levels because they realize the players don't have the opportunity to go to a deep level, so they're just going to teach them where they're at.
That's right. No, he's right about that. But all people will also say that football has never been more complex. The read option puts a lot of stuff in a quarterback's brain. The RPO game puts a lot of stuff in a quarterback's brain. But what Tom Brady is saying can't be denied. I mean, let's just go back to the basics. 5 years in a program like Michigan, back when Lloyd Carr was there, when they weren't cheating, stealing, thieving, well, that can only help a guy. Sitting, watching, whoever you're watching, as long as he's a professional quarterback, and by all accounts, Drew Brees was a professional quarterback can only help you. Working on your craft, fighting, doing extra can only help you. You're absolutely right. Now, I don't know if I'd use the word tragedy. I use tragedy for bigger, better things. But guys coming into the NFL now, and Tom knows this, are paid so much money. What are you going to do? You're going to sit on that money? And, of course, we all understand this. You better get it going on the rookie deal, because maybe the real tragedy in the NFL is the amount of money quarterbacks are getting to the detriment of their team. Brady wasn't one of those guys. See, when Brady speaks, I listen. Brady has championships. Brady has success. Brady can be arrogant. Match that with the stupidity of a guy like Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, dumbass, hasn't done squat. All the ability in the world, and he's had one good playoff game. Brady has won more championships than anybody. I'll listen to Tom Brady. I'm weird that way. But I disagree with Brady on one thing. Or maybe I don't. I want to hear the deeper level of football. Everybody talks about these type of things. You know, in the world of politics, we talk about progressing and moving forward all the time, right? Well, I want to hear, what's a deeper level of football? What's the level with which he is talking? I hope when he starts broadcasting at $30 million a year, which, my God, is that great? Good for him. I hope that he comes around and lets us know. I hope he tells us and shows us this deeper level. Just doesn't show up, I'm Tom Brady, kind of like what Tony Romo does now. Romo would show us what was happening, and it was cool. Now Romo shows up, hey, I'm Tony Romo. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Good for you. Now tell us something. I don't know. I'm kind of fascinated by it. Trevor Bauer, who really is getting screwed left and right. He is. Trevor Bauer, Major League Baseball player, had a little rough sex with a woman who took pictures and kind of enjoyed it, at least from her Instagram, and then decided, I'm going to make some money off this guy, ruin this guy's life, ruin this guy's career. Well, Trevor Bauer claims Major League Baseball is keeping teams from signing him. Yeah, I'd agree. Says one team is covering up some stuff. Well, we're all covering up some stuff. I mean, who are you crapping? Look, only one dude that I know lived the perfect life, and Pontius Pilate had him crucified. I mean, of course everybody's covering up some stuff. You know, in this day and age, remember when back in the day, abortion used to be, if you had an abortion, like you couldn't run for office because it would be known, right? That kind of thing. Now some lady speaking at the Democratic National Convention claiming she's had 22. The stuff that we're covering up in the day doesn't need covered up now. Weird world, by the way. I digress. Well, one team told us it's not their decision. It's a Major League Baseball decision. One team told me I was too expensive, even though I offered to play for a minimum. Another team told us they have covered some stuff up in the past that they don't want the media digging into to find out about. Let me explain something to you. Covering up stuff in the past, that in the Me Too movement, guys got in trouble for things that happened 30 years ago. Now, people just laugh it off. It's a one-day story. Can you believe he said this back in 2012? Blake Lively said the word trannies in 2012. It was a story for a minute. The world is nuts. Anyway, that's a great question about Major League Baseball. It shouldn't be their decision, Bauer says, but apparently in certain cases it is. And all your coaches and players agree with that. There's absolutely zero belief that my stuff won't succeed in the league. Every team we talk to says I'd be number one or number two in their rotation. That's Trevor Bauer when asked if Major League Baseball interferes with free agent signings. Okay. You know what? He's getting screwed. And the woman should burn in hell because apparently, allegedly, she made false claims. No charges have been filed, no civil suits, clear evidence that she's lying. You know what I'm saying? Sad, really. But that's the way the world works right now. Harley Davidson, good for Harley Davidson, has slammed the brakes on woke policies after sparking biker and social media outrage. It is critical to our business that we hire and retain the best talent and that all employees feel welcome. Why? Why does everybody got to feel welcome? I mean, you feel welcome, but does everybody got to be nice? I mean, what? Just be people. Just be human beings. Don't be farm animals. You know what I mean? That said, we have not operated a DEI function since April 2024. We do not have a DEI function today. We do not have hiring quotas, and we no longer have supplier diversity spend goals. What that means is they used to say, you got to spend so much on a black business. Yeah, I'm old, and over the course of my time, I've been embroiled in some controversies, but a lot of them really stupid. But I don't think I've ever seen anything dumber. I honestly don't, than this being controversial. Women should not have to compete against men in women's sports. It's literally the dumbest controversy I've ever been around. When I said they shouldn't, USA Today wrote an article. Kirk Herbstreit said they shouldn't. The entire world exploded. Us Magazine. Everybody took off. Life, everything took off. It's like, what in the hell? David Pollack joins us. David, you gave a response that said, of course, everybody thinks women shouldn't have to compete against men in women's sports. David, it's the dumbest conversation, not possible, but certainly among the dumbest possible, is it not?
Make common sense common again, Dan, right? Like, I mean, it seems listen, here's the thing. Growing up, Dan, like, you played sports. We played sports. And it was very clear the difference when one started to hit puberty, like, you stayed away from the other. Like, when that testosterone for boys started to hit and you started to build muscle at a rate that was absolutely stupid, and you started to move way faster than the girls, and you started to get way bigger than the girls, it made a lot of sense that you didn't see that. And by the way, we aren't seeing a lot of girls line up to go, I'd like to go play men's tackle football, please. Like, that's and there's a reason for that. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like it's very commonsensical, but there's, this world is definitely we're still talking about things that we probably shouldn't be.
It's amazing. I remember Jennifer Wellman, she played with us and then she didn't, because all of a sudden we got a little bit bigger, a little bit older. Next thing you know, she did. It astounds me. And Herbstreit Steele. Hey, what'd you think? You were at ESPN. Sam Ponder and I worked together at ESPN with Mike Tirico on Tuesday Night Basketball. There's no way anybody's going to tell me it's budget cuts 3 weeks before the NFL season. What'd you think about Ponder and RG3 getting the boot there?
It is interesting timing with the season coming right up around the corner. But listen, I've lived it, right? Like, Dan, I was in these exact shoes the year before. And, it's part of the deal that budget cuts are a part of the conversation every year. And you always wonder, like, dang, man, and I had a guy text me last year or 2 years ago before I got fired. And he was like, man, thank God we made it. And my news hadn't come out yet. And I was like, well, one of us made it. The other one didn't make it. So you kind of live by that, and you kind of wonder, because I don't know what it is, but apparently, with the contracts with ESPN, there's always somebody that needs to be cut, and there's always somebody that it doesn't add up to what they want it to add up to, and they make changes, and that's the way it works. And listen, Sam and RG3 will be just fine. Like, both those are extremely talented. They're cool cats. They're good at their jobs. Like, they're not people that are going to be hurting to find work in the future.
Do you think Sam got the boot because of her views not aligning with ESPN? A lot of people are saying that. She supported Herbstreit when he was on our show, made those comments. She put out X, what is it, XY greater or equals men, XX equals men. You think that was a part of it, or do you think that's just too obvious and media blowing that up?
Man, I think that's a hard thing to always answer, Dan, and because you're not in those rooms and you don't want to assume
right.
things, but Sam is good at her job, and Sam has been pretty outspoken, which is good. There's a lot of people, by the way, that have been outspoken. I'll say this: if you have a certain view that is contrary to a company that you serve with and you share it frequently, like a lot of times what will happen is this exact thing can happen. I mean, just it takes one person that wants to be able to get rid of you. Do I think that was the sole reason? No, I don't think it's the sole reason. But do I think that kind of stuff weighs into decision making subconsciously or consciously? Of course, with every corporation, with every company, you take all things into consideration. But I think we can all look at each other and go, I'm pretty sure it wasn't performance based. Like, she's really good at her job. She's professional. She works hard. So there's obviously all kinds of factors that go into making those decisions. But I'll say this too, Dan, and you'll probably ask me about this, but people that are talking about, like Dan Orlovsky, are you going to ask that? Are we going to talk about Dan? Like, people are going to talk about
not really, but go ahead.
Well, his comments, and like people called him. I saw people on social media attack him a little bit about, why would you retract the comment? Okay, it's not as easy as you guys think. When you have a job and they tell you, I remember sitting in the room and they tell you, like, your social media is your social media, but your points do reflect us, and you are a reflection of us. So what you say, it does matter, and we are watching what you say. So, everybody says, oh, you should just stand up for what's right. You should. Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of people that's livelihood is attached to that, and that's their job. That's how they make money. And you're telling me, oh, just walk away. It's just easy. Like that. There's a lot of people across the country that don't take stands on things for that exact reason, because they could lose their job, and because there are things like that go into the mix. But you are well informed at ESPN. I can tell you from being in the meetings. I was told, Dan, like, your social media is a part of us, and we're attached together because you're on our airways and we're putting you out all the time.
Yeah, Seth Greenberg and I, when we were both at ESPN, he's still there, but we were watching a debate, and we were kind of going back and forth. We weren't really serious. We were just like, yeah, that guy should do this. Oh, man, Norby called us the next day, man. Norby was on the horn the next damn day, right? Basically.
What did he say? We don't do politics? Is that what he said?
He said, we you know what? We don't. This is before they made the big move that we don't do politics. They made a big move there. But, yeah, it was basically, you know what? Why don't you two just social media about your shows, your podcasts, and your sport? So, yeah, okay.
But Dan,
at the time, I had to put kids through college. Yeah.
Yes, but isn't that interesting? Like, it is certain viewpoints that, like, well, we don't want you to talk about, but there are certain viewpoints that we are very much willing and capable to talk about that it's not a big deal. And y'all can see that. Y'all watch the television. Like, there's a lot of times when you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem to make sense. If you can't say this, you can't say that. And then there's some people that transcend, by the way. And there's some people like Charles Barkley that he can say whatever the heck he wants to say. Like, there are those few people like that can do whatever they want to do. But the other ones, it's definitely a different stick.
Yeah, I mean, of course we're coaches, so we're going to argue. We're like, wait a second, what about him? What are you talking about? Jalen's on TV talking about, hey, we're not talking about Jalen, we're talking about you, Dan. Okay, you're right. They always got an answer for it, right? Like, all right. Yeah, hey, let's talk some football. Georgia, your school, number one, a lot of off-field activity, bad, not good. Does that impact how does that impact the modern college football team?
Well, I mean, it's part of it. I think that now when you have – so we had all these things, Dan, back in the day, right? And you had, the popularity and the stuff that went with it. But now you got so much social media. Now you got coin. Like, now you got money to buy nice cars. And at Georgia, man, the worst thing they've done in the last several years, I think they're like 42-2 on the field. But, my goodness, they've got a lot of speedings and a lot of car incidents, and that's something that's definitely affects your team. And listen, one of their receivers, Ra Thomas, gets kicked off, who was going to be a key contributor. So I think it's the only thing that's really slowed Georgia down and gotten their way. And Kirby's obviously addressed it, and he's brought people in to address it. But it's something with these kids nowadays, man. When you got some coin and you got nice cars, like, you're going to do some things that probably I would have gladly done if I had money, but I didn't have any money to buy cars and to do some of that stuff. But here's the thing with Georgia. I agree with Georgia being number one, Dan. There's no way Georgia finishes the regular season at number one. There's no way. Like, there is 4 teams in the SEC in the top 6. They play the other 3, and they're on the road.
I know.
They play them on the road. And guess what? The other 3 don't play each other. They just play Georgia. So, like, I could definitely see a world where Georgia's watching the SEC championship game and still go to the college football playoff because that schedule, and then you add Clemson away from home at that schedule. You add Tennessee at home. Like, that schedule is absolutely brutal.
That's why I like LSU. Like, when I always look at schedules, David. I looked at LSU's schedule, and I always look at the road games because, let's be honest, if you're going to be really
thing to
good,
do in college football.
You got to go into play.
Yep.
Their road schedule's nice. They don't have to go to Georgia. They don't have to go to Alabama. They got Arkansas, a couple others. That's what I look at. So let me go this route with you. Alabama. Look, when I was at Indiana with Coach Knight, it was a pressure cooker, right? I mean, you're supposed to win. You're supposed to win at a massive level. Big Ten title, go deep in the NCAA tournament. Alabama, now the guy following Bob Knight, that ain't easy. Guy following Nick Saban, I don't know if it's impossible, but it ain't easy. What is an expectation? What is the expectation year one for Caleb DeBoer?
Listen, Kalen DeBoer is a really good football coach, like really good football coach. And he's done it.
Like that's the thing that, like, when you can coach football, you can coach it anywhere. And Alabama is a place that's set up to succeed. When I look at this team, the frontline depth, Dan, is really good. Like the starters are really good. There's still 5 stars littered throughout the roster. To me, it's the guys. There's a bunch of guys that when Saban left, the transfer portal went nuts. And there's a bunch of guys that probably wouldn't have left otherwise. And so I think, do they stay healthy? Their schedule is really good. Here's the thing I'll say about Alabama. They're ranked probably maybe a little bit low, which is crazy. And that doesn't happen very often because here's the thing. Kalen DeBoer's an offensive wizard. He's a great offensive play caller. He's always been good at it. What if Milroe takes a step and a leap, just a 5% leap, 10% leap, 15% leap in the passing game and really gets better at seeing things and the system's better and the screen game comes alive and that's going to be a tough QB to handle. That's a guy that's going to be at the Heisman Trophy ceremony. So I think Alabama, obviously new era, new challenges, but the challenges to me are with depth. The challenges to me, if they stay healthy, Alabama's going to be in the playoff. And I like the way Kalen DeBoer has handled himself, by the way. He's not worried about Nick Saban. Like, he's invited Nick Saban back. He wants him to be a part of it. Like that. Dan, you've been around coaches. I know coaches specifically, they're like, well, that guy goes out the door. I don't want him around. Like, he's too big of a shadow because Nick Saban cast a huge shadow. But I think he's done everything the right way and is a heck of a football coach. And if the recruiting can continue to be really solid, he's going to be really good at Alabama.
It's funny. When I left Indiana, became a head coach at Bowling Green, I said, I'm going to be the first coach to take over for another coach that speaks nice and invites the previous coach back. Because you always hear the coach going, well, we're doing things different. We're going to blah, 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 blah. Like, hey, man, shut the hell up. I am fascinated, though, about a couple of things. Seriously, it's like, come on. I am fascinated about a couple of things. One of is Notre Dame. Notre Dame seemingly, everybody tells me, can recruit anybody, but this is the second year in a row, for lack of a better way to put it, they're recruiting a quarterback that they've bought. What's your, I live in Indiana. Basically, I hate to say it this way, but IU and Purdue football, it's all right. It's not like you got, but Notre Dame's a different deal. What good schedule, great schedule, new quarterback. What are your thoughts on Freeman, Notre Dame, as we head into another year?
I think this is a big year, and it's going to be interesting with them, Dan. I think they're one of the teams that are probably going to benefit the most from the 12-team playoff. And I say that because every time everybody's fighting for these SEC championship game spot, ACC championship game spot, Notre Dame doesn't have to fight for that. So when the SEC beats each other up in the SEC championship game, the loser of that game, it's going to be like, where do we slide? And, oh, yeah, Notre Dame was on a bye week. Like, Notre Dame didn't play. So – to me, that's going to be an advantage. Listen, they got to go to A&M week 1. I think that's going to be really tough for them. Like, that's going to be a tough game. If they win that game, you're right. Their schedule is not bad. Riley comes over from Duke. He's a dual threat guy. He's a really good quarterback. This offense has been it's been okay. Even with Sam Hartman that came in, like, I don't think I've ever looked at this, but I do think when you steal LSU's offensive coordinator, I think they exponentially got better at the OC spot. Like, exponentially. I think Notre Dame's offense, because of that, will take off. You saw Jaden Daniels last year. Like, they had a system. They had a plan. Listen, they had freaks everywhere, too. Don't get it wrong. Like, you saw Malik Neighbors and those guys get drafted. But I don't think Notre Dame has the same freaks out wide. The offensive line's not as strong as it was. But I think just with the addition of the OC, a really strong defense, Notre Dame's very much going to be in the playoff hunt. And I'll be just interested to see. Again, we're learning on the fly, right, with this new committee. Like, how do you handle a Notre Dame team that's sitting there at the end of the year, everybody else playing? Does that loser automatically get slotted below them because they got another L on their resume?
Yeah, I mean, you guys in the SEC, you would love to see Army and Navy and Virginia on the schedule, man. You guys would be like, oh, yeah, bring it, baby.
No, Virginia, yes, but you don't want the triple option, bro. That's hard to prepare for. You'll take the other ones.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, the triple option, that's no fun. Yeah,
no, you don't want that one.
I forgot. Hey, David, let's talk about the Pollack Family Foundation. What's going on?
Man, we're doing some fun stuff. We just gave a car away, which was really, really cool. We're going to do another one too in January. You're just going to submit like why you falling on hard times, and we're literally going to hand you the keys to a car. We got the Banquet of Blessings coming up in November that we do every year, where we bring in. Last year was 942 homeless. We bust them all in and we served them a dinner, and they all got a coat and sleeping bags and hats and all kinds of good stuff. So we're trying to plug in and find some spots to do some good, and we've definitely got a cool community here in Athens that we get to do it with.
That's awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Always fun. Hope you'll come back when the season gets rolling.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, bub.